there is no one thing that you can do. There's no magic bullet. There's no secret sauce. There's not one thing I can tell you to do that will change how your ranking, how your content's ranking right now. It takes a lot of things. Now, what you have control over, though, is the content. And you do have a substantial amount. But just so we're clear, it's not easy to do. And I got an example of even the best having a problem, because the New York Times loves to brand news opportunities or any kind of news event. And so, for example, when the plane crashed into the Hudson River, the New York Times was literally two and a half long blocks away from that, maybe 3 long blocks away from watching this happen. Several people saw it flying down the Chelsea neighborhood area and in Midtown. And so they're seeing this happen. And they went to press. They go to press. They optimize the content for pilot is hailed after jetliner's icy plunge. That's what they go to press with. That was their headline on their piece of content. And we have to ask the question, how many people are searching for that phrase? How many people are searching for pilot is hailed after jetliner's icy plunge? They called it Miracle on the Hudson. They called it Sully's Day. A lot of these things that failed in their optimization because people were just searching for plane crash Hudson River. If there is some type of news event, users are searching literally, very literally, for what has occurred or what they have heard or what they know to have happened. A person's name, an event, a thing, a place. So in an event that the New York Times watched fly down out their windows, they were nowhere to be found. In fact, what really chapped their hide was the fact that the Los Angeles Times scooped them, used information that they put up, optimized it better because of Hudson plane crash. They targeted the audience better and outranked them because, again, they targeted searches that weren't happening. So that's SEO in a nutshell, giving your content the best possible chance for ranking. We're going to talk about the page title. We're going to talk about the summary field, which is also called the meta description tag, and we're going to talk about content. These are the 3 things that we're going to head on because they're arguably the most influential. And as far as SEO is concerned, they're certainly the most influential, and from a user standpoint, they are too. Because if a user can't find you, then that content doesn't exist. If you can't find a piece of content via Google. So the on-page elements. The most important thing that you can do, the most control that you have, is this page title. In the CMS, it's in the title field here in Radio Edit. That's where you want to make sure that you take the time and the research to write a really, really good title. I'm going to kill you with a couple bullet points because, well, more than a couple, because there are good ways to write titles and there are bad ways. But again, we are writing for a piece of software and for users. So we have to be specific and literal and brief. And because we're dealing with a piece of software that doesn't understand pilot is hailed after jetliner's icy plunge, that we're talking about the U.S. Airways flight that crashed into the Hudson River, we have to avoid that witty, non-specific language that is sarcastic or that is humor, that is not literal. If we don't tell who's involved, what's involved, and where it's involved, the engine gets confused. Google uses this title tag as one of the key indicators about what that content is about. So we have to start thinking like our users, and we have to ask ourselves, how would they search for this article? What are they searching for to find this? They're searching for plane crash Hudson River. They're not searching for the pilot. We didn't even know the pilot's name in the beginning. All we knew is that a plane had crashed, and it crashed in the river in New York. So how are users searching for your content? That's how we write these titles. And we want that most important information at the beginning of this headline. And I've got a lot of examples that will show you how to use that, how to do that in a second. We can't just list a bunch of keywords because that wouldn't make sense. That would look weird, and Google's onto that. We want to write in a way that's coherent, that's compelling, and that uses the targeted phrases that we're looking for. So some examples around this. where clear, literal language works the best. Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman to host Saturday Night Live. Very simple and straightforward. These are examples taken from National. Tommy Lee accuses son of attacking him in front of fiancé. Very straightforward. We look at something like this. Why March 17th matters in rock history. And we look at this and like, if you're on Facebook, if you're in social or in a social network somewhere, yeah, this is compelling. This is encouraging you to click through because it doesn't answer the question. These are what don't work for search. They don't work for SEO. This will fall on its face. In fact, we went and did the research, and this article didn't do well at all. It didn't do well in social either. So I would argue what's good for search is good for social. And if we can write something and include a person, place, or thing's name, then we can really start attracting an audience. So a recommendation, and I'm going to give the caveat right now, I am not a writer, and so this may not be the best recommendation, but something to the effect of famous albums released on March 17th. That gives it a bit of a better chance. Another article, I'm going to start picking on some of the sites here. Apologies if you're on the phone. But we see something like Sacramento police release more video of Stephen Clark's shooting. What I want to show you here is that you can make really small changes that can have a big result. One of the things we talked about is how important it is to front load this title, meaning putting the most important phrase first. In this situation, Stephen Clark is the most important phrase. And so you go out and you start looking at what are users searching for. They're not searching for the Stephen Clark shooting. They're not looking for Sacramento police. They're just looking for this guy's name. So the recommendation would be to front load that. We're just changing the order of this title. So the recommendation would be Stephen Clark shooting video released by Sacramento police with the branding. One thing we talked about in the last national session was the use of the word report. So the Vikings are set to offer Kirk Cousins huge 3-year, $91 million deal. We go out and look. Yeah, they've nailed it. People are searching for Vikings much more than they are for Minnesota Vikings, probably because it's too long to type, much more than they even look for Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins is in there. So using Google Trends as a way to show us, like, what's the leading indicator? What's the popularity of terms? Who should we optimize for? Is it Vikings or is it Kirk Cousins? Well, it's clearly both, but it's not Minnesota Vikings. And that takes up a lot of valuable space. And so we just massage that a little bit, not much at all. All we're doing is we're pulling down the term report and tightening it up a little bit because we're dealing with 65 characters. So we pull out report because, again, Google is looking at these first few phrases as the most important in your title, which is why, again, coming back to that list of things, we want it to make sense, we want it to be compelling, and we want to front load it with the most important keyword phrases. The other thing is content. So Google, again, we have to remember what they need. They need content, they need optimization, they need as much guidance as we can give them. So we need to give them content. We need to tell them what's in this article, why is it important, and there's some guidelines. Again, we're not going to tell you how to write, but once your content starts, we need at least 100 words of uninterrupted content. It becomes essential for SEO. It's not a lot. It's about 4 to 5 sentences, 1 or 2 paragraphs, if you think about it that way. Search engines need this content. They need more. So once this content starts with the did you get to check out the Pink Show, once this content starts, we need 100 words. We need to do what People Magazine knows really well. We need to know what Wichita Eagle is doing. We need to do what Wichita Eagle is doing, and that is write content. Write a generous amount of content. We need 100 words, uninterrupted. And what that means is uninterrupted by a video, by this embed right here. Once the content starts, we need 100 words. There's a new word counter in Radio Edit that shows how many words are typed, so we can use that. And if you're embedding a tweet, you can just grab the entire text of the tweet and use that as part of the 100 words. We just want it to be uninterrupted once you start. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is the meta description field. This is done in the summary field within Radio Edit. And that's how you are compelling a user to click through. Because, and there's rules to this as well. We want to summarize the content, and we want to encourage clicks. Now, the thing about this is that Google just recently expanded this within the last month-ish or so. They expanded this to 300 characters. So right now, the character count has 120. We're going to change that soon. And the reason why is because Google is giving you the space. And what we're seeing is that if you don't write enough, they're going to put something in this field for you. And we don't want that to happen. I'll show you an example of that here in a second. So this is your marketing message. If you're writing about the International Champions Cup, if you're writing about Pink and her son at Hertz Donuts, we want those keywords to be in this meta description tag. We want it to be in the title, and we want it to be in the description, and we want it to be in the content. That's the theme. So to take that example, we got the current description that's on that example from before is Real Madrid, Manchester United, Bayern Munich, and Manchester City will all play at Hard Rock Stadium, which is 101 characters. What we're saying is to use that space, to use the 300 characters. Real Madrid, Manchester U, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I literally grabbed this copy from the page itself and added it in through the summary field. That's what I would recommend you do. The content usually dictates what you can put in the summary field in the meta description tag. And then I went beyond the 300 characters, which is okay too. The problem is that if you go too short, Google will combine this with other text on the page. And so what they do, Google will go out. If you look at this, so the description on the Elvis Duran in the Morning Show, they have a very short description. It's accurate, but it's short. So Google says, no, you did it wrong. We're going to go out and grab it. And they grab this kind of nonsense. And a lot of times it may make sense, but a lot of times it doesn't. So this is one of those situations where if it's too short, Google may rewrite it. And a lot of times they will. So the last thing. So 3 things to check before you publish. And we'll send this around so you'll have the bullet points as well. But does it include, is the headline, is that title well balanced? Is it well written? Does it include the main topics? And is it realistic? Are users actually searching for that phrase? Give it that litmus test. Would somebody, if I read this headline, will users know what this article is about? And if it does, then usually it passes the test. And is it front loaded? And will it give this article the best possible chance for search? Are there at least 100 words of content once it starts? Before an image, before an embed of any kind, is there 100 words uninterrupted? And then finally, is the summary, is the summary and that meta description a compelling field? There's a compelling summary that includes the search terms. So again, in this meta description field, is it written in a way that compels me to click through? Does it include the main keyword phrases? And if so, and you can just grab it from the content. That's one of the easiest ways to do that. So those are the things, again, those are what you can go back to your desk and improve upon. That page title, the summary field, and the content.